Are we live?
Yes.
Welcome back, Lake Elsinore. And this week we're going to be covering algae back at the lake, as well as how many car washes exactly do we need in the city of Lake Elsinore, and tales from the mailbag today on Lake Elsinore Live. My name is Steve Manos. I am the mayor for the city of Lake Elsinore. This is our live stream, and I have with me today as a special guest our new Economic Development Director, Gina Gonzalez. Thank you for joining me, Gina.
It's my pleasure, Mayor. I'm very happy to be here.
We're happy to have you on board. We're gonna go through a segment where we ask you a lot of questions, but first, I wanted to go ahead and address a hot button topic that happens to be on the minds of the people in Lake Elsinore: the return of algae at the lake. Now, as everybody knows, we have recently invested heavily in some new mitigation tactics to go ahead and deal with the algae that has plagued our lake for many, many years. The blue-green algae, or cyanobacteria, is an algae that has spread throughout California in many lakes and rivers and streams that is creating a toxic algae that creates this chemical we call it microcystins that are irritants to human beings and dangerous to animals. This is something that has caught the attention of the state of California and has caused closures in the state of California, including our lake. And last year, our lake had one of the longest closure periods in the history of the lake, and so we've decided to take action. But even before the long closure, we really had a history of working up towards this. As a matter of fact, 6 years ago, my good friend Jamie Schramm went ahead and turned us on to this new technology that was demonstrated out at Bear Creek. The city manager and I went out. We actually got to see the utilization of the nano-bubbler technology. I actually got the opportunity to meet a guy who claimed to be the inventor, but it was very, very new technology at the time. And they took a barrel of Lake Elsinore water, and in about a half hour's time, utilizing ozone and the nanobubbler technology they had that was in the back of a van at the time, cleared that barrel. And it was actually some great, it was a great demonstration. But it was very new technology, hadn't been proven, had been utilized in a lot of different areas. And this was 2018, 2019. Unfortunately, in the following year, we had a series of very, very bad events, including the fires and the floods. And then in 2019, we had the poppy explosion and a big fish kill that happened that just preceded that. And then, of course, later on that year, we had the emergence of COVID in 2020. So we were a little distracted for a couple of years, right? We weren't really focused on the lake water quality while all the businesses were shut down, and we were all sifting through the information that was being conveyed downwards. But this year, we made it a point to get the technology out there. We really ramped up last year. We wrote quite a few grants in the interim, and we were able to get the funding and the money to be able to actually put the technology on the lake. Not only just that, we're also applying an algicide to the lake, which doesn't get quite as much attention, but it's something that's new, that was actually dropped fourth quarter last year. And we believe that along with the heavy rains, as well as the fact that the heavy rains caused us to be able to kind of turn off the reclaimed water input, all of it created perfect conditions to create a situation in the lake that I've never seen in my lifetime. The water was literally crystal clear to like 15 feet. That does not happen in Lake Elsinore, and it happened just this last couple of months. So what we're seeing now that's washing up on our shores is what's called a stringy algae, or a filamentous algae. This algae it essentially grows from the lake bed, and a lot of people are pointing out that that hasn't been very hot. Why is it all of a sudden we're having algae blooms? Maybe they turned the water back on. Maybe there's new pollutants coming in from somewhere. And the answer is no. None of that's true. What's happening is the lake's ecosystem is changing. It's stabilizing in some ways, but it's also adjusting to the new normals that have been created by all of these different efforts. And so what you're having sunlight reach the lake bed, which hasn't happened in I don't know how many years, maybe decades. And so at first this looked like moss in the lake bed, and then the scientists took a look at it and they identified what it was. But it is a non-toxic algae that is natural in clean bodies of water. So what you're seeing is a natural process. Lake Elsinore is still very shallow. It still has lots of nutrients in it. We have an application that we intend to apply in the next few months as we're waiting for state approval for that implementation. It's called Foslock. It's it is lamp. I forget the name of the word. But it's a specific product that captures the phosphates that are in the water column and then takes it into the lake bed and traps it there forever. But the bottom line is that we're working through that process. We're also going to be applying another algicide application in the next month or so, and that should go ahead and help tamp down some of the algae that you're seeing right now. And I think it's important to remind folks this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. We're going to be testing the nanobubbler system in the same location for the next 2 years. We're not going to move it for a long period of time. And the reason is we're testing all over the lake, and we're going to go ahead and see how specific areas of the lake interact with, do we have an issue? I'm sorry. You want me to move this closer? I can do that. No problem. All right. Very good. You just let me know. So bottom line is that there's a lot of things that we are going to do along the line as we continue to go ahead and kind of experiment with what's going on. I've heard some folks say, hey, we need 3 or 4 more of these systems. Actually, you're probably 100% accurate. We don't know how many more systems we need. As a matter of fact, we don't know if the system's going to be truly successful, and we're testing for that. That's the reason why it's a pilot program, is we have to go ahead and get a lot of data before we can make a determination whether to go ahead and expand on the program, whether to try different technology, whether to add some different techniques, or maybe to go ahead and apply the system in a different way. One of the ideas that have been floated is to take the reclaimed water that's coming into the lake from the water district and running it through a system to kind of polish the water, if you would. And that would be an exciting interactive process that we would test to go ahead and see if that would be helpful or would do good for the lake. The other part is we haven't been able to turn on the ozone yet. Okay, so everything that's being pumped into the lake is oxygen right now. The ozone is really what does the sterilization. It's the process that's mandated by the state of California in order to go ahead and create bottled water. So we haven't been able to even turn on the device that we do have to its full capacity. We're measuring how it does at 250 feet and 1,000 feet from the nanobubbler system. It is not a cure-all. It is not a silver bullet. And at best, what you're doing is you're creating very, very clean water that is perfect for algae growth. I mean, to a certain degree, even when you have a pool that's clean, eventually there's going to be algae that grows in that pool if left untreated. So we knew that the nanobubbler wasn't going to be enough in one location. And now we got to go ahead and test it to see, well, shoot, it's not just about how far will it have a positive impact, but what is the cumulative impact? How does it actually break up the stuff that's at the bottom of the lake? How long will that take? How long does that take to come back? How is it going to interact when the temperatures rise? How does that interact with some of the other treatments? Lanthanum, that's the word. The lanthanum-based treatment that's called Foslock. We don't know. We don't know any of these answers. We have good guesses and theories, but Lake Elsinore is a very unique lake with a very unique chemistry and a very unique ecosystem. It's a very unique shape. It's at the end of a watershed, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of instances in the entire country where a similar situation exists, much less a place where they're using technology that's only been around for less than a decade. So hang in there. Try not to pass judgment yet. I do have to say that on Facebook, I see a lot of experts that are residents. I'm so excited to see that. I love the fact that people are engaged in the process, but we do have trained professionals, and we are talking to scientists that are experts in water quality. And I can assure you that before we make any decisions, it's thoroughly vetted and researched and by multiple agencies, and the financing for it is absolutely bonkers. It's very difficult to go ahead and pull together the financing for things like this. So I'm excited, cautiously optimistic. We're still getting great readings. We were going to continue to keep you guys informed. That's what this is all about. It's all about transparency and keep getting people involved with the process. So with that, we'll take questions about that later on. With that, I'm going to transition now to our economic development director, Gina. Welcome back again. Sorry, I had to monologue there for a little bit as we go ahead and address some of the things. This is kind of the way we run things. How are you doing?
I'm extremely excited to be here.
Okay.
Not to love. I have family here in Elsinore, and I take a lot of pride in what I do. And we have a great team here. Just really excited to hit the floor running. And man, are we already booking?
All right. You've been on for about how long?
2 months.
2 months. Okay. So we've had you on for 2 months, and it takes a little time to even figure out where all the bathrooms in the place are, right? So there's an adjustment period.
I don't go to the restroom.
You do. You work through restroom breaks. That's what the boss likes to hear, right? I mean, obviously. Point is though, and what's different for here than where you were before? What are the different dynamics that we have going on between your last experience, maybe your last several experiences where Lake Elsinore might be unique?
I love Lake Elsinore for many different reasons. From an economic development standpoint, is that we have a lot of regional attractions here that many people either are familiar with, but in my cases, they don't necessarily know the gem that we actually have here. From the lake that you're describing itself, from it being cleaned up, and the ability to activate that and use that from a regional attraction perspective. But then also we have BMX, motocross, we have a casino, we have Launch Point, we have Rosetta Canyon Sports Park. I actually have amenities. I have a downtown. I've never had a downtown. This is exciting. I've had to create downtowns and vibes for a downtown. We have that here. We can activate that even more than what you guys have done. And so just to have that kind of a tool belt is very, very exciting to an economic developer. You guys have done a phenomenal job, and I am ready to just elaborate and grow it even more so.
Now, for the folks at home, you guys might not know the history, but basically the city essentially invested its economic development efforts originally primarily through the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce, continues to do a great job.
Need them.
We definitely need them. They are part of the solution, but we really didn't dedicate a lot in terms of economic development specifically. I know there was almost beyond the Chamber contract, there was really nothing that was being done in terms of we didn't have an economic development director. We didn't have anybody in the department. We had one of our council members that did go to ICSC prior to my election. Myself and Natasha Johnson pretty much make up the economic development subcommittee and have done so for about 12 years. And then we also had a new city manager that came on at the same time from Temecula. Folks may remember Grant Yates. And he really fostered an environment that allowed us to go ahead and start exploring those areas. He was great. And that's what's kind of led us to the current modern day economic development. Now we got Jason Simpson, that's the city manager. And Jason has done the job of taking the vision even further by actually creating a department and actually bringing somebody phenomenal like you on board to really go ahead and work on it. This is your full-time job now to go ahead and attract and hopefully retain, in some respects, some of the things that the people here really want to see, and I'm sure folks have a lot of ideas as far as all that goes. What's on the horizon right now? What's the next big thing that you're working on right now?
There's a lot of things. It's a multi-pronged effort, as you may be well aware, but not a lot of people really know what economic development is. It's just this big word, but really we have an acronym called BEAR. It's Business Expansion, Attraction, and Retention Efforts. And so it's exactly what that is. So it's growing what we call gardening, growing your existing businesses, and actually 70% of job creation actually comes from our existing businesses here locally. And so that's really where our EDC and our chamber come into play, where they could really help us to grow a lot faster our existing businesses. And we have a couple programs that are in the works already with both of those entities to help really spur that. But then there's also the attraction side, and really, where the chamber really participated in that, we're concentrating on really about job creation, right? So some of the industrial that's coming in, it's extremely important to have the product in hand in order to have those mortgage paying jobs and to attract those mortgage paying jobs. So it was really exciting to see all of the efforts that the council has been very active about in trying to create jobs locally and really trying to spur that and go after the companies to come here locally. We have the workforce here, you guys. So I always like to say, we have a talented workforce that already sleep here. So it's really trying to show that workforce that is needed for that job creation here, or for those companies to locate here. Elsinore is prime for that. And then there's the attraction side, right, where we're talking about healthcare. With all of the growth, we just did a bunch of studies, which you talked about, Jason, and it's phenomenal to have a city manager to work with Jason. It's very unique that he's like, what do you need? Let's just do it. Let's do it. We have a team here. And so we've executed a lot of studies from office to retail to demographics to our hotel. We have a website overhaul. We have from an economic development branding effort that we've executed. And in addition, this sounds like a lot to take on, but the most important thing is our SEDS. That's a comprehensive economic development strategy. And what that really relates to is it's a federal blueprint plan for us to work off of. And I say that us as in a city, but really what it does is it lays the groundwork of a 5-year plan, a master plan for economic development for our city that will set us up, right? So diversifying our local economy at down times and good times. And what does that mean? It's multiple pronged, from healthcare to education, creating the pathways for the future workforce needs. And then also for the nightlife, right? All the things that we want. We want places to visit long term. We want music. We want those eateries that are unique, that I always hear from everybody. No more Mexican restaurants, even though I'm a fan. I love my Mexican food and my margaritas, but really diversifying our eateries as well. So people will be real excited to know we have a great French restaurant that's coming to our downtown as well. So it's just the beginning. Right. But you'll start to see more diversification for our palates too.
I didn't even know that. I had no idea.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
No.
We'll take
so
it.
there's a lot of things that we're going to be working on overall in our SEDS. And what's really important to note with the SEDS is that the minute that you're done with the SEDS, it also opens us up to $3 million in public works grants, where there's multiple industries that are affected. And so that really can help us with infrastructure needs. It can assist us with trying to attract certain types of companies that we want to see for our city, or even some of the bigger needs like a regional hospital for children's services or pediatrics. We have a growing community that came out from our Dorego study, which is a well-known study, but it shows that we have a 7.8% growth rate over the next 2 years. So that's very attractive. To have a growing community and trying to go after all the amenities that are required for that growing population.
I would say all that is phenomenal, but the average person, I see the question right here is, are we getting a Trader Joe's? That seems to be, we're going to boil it all down to just that one thing.
Good old TJ's. It's like in every community, everybody wants a Trader Joe's.
Everybody wants a Trader Joe's.
So I will tell you this, Trader Joe's is definitely on the horizon. I know that the city council has been working on that for some time. We have the relationships. Our goal is to get on the short list, and once you get on the short list, then you can start working the sites. Right. We do have some work to do on our educational attainment levels in our community and also our income levels, and so that's why I said it's a multi-pronged effort here when we're talking about job creation and attracting the right types of businesses to our area that could help with that. And then on the same time when we're doing that, it also attracts certain types of higher income levels to our residential communities, and that is how you really can change the demographic of a community to become more attractive to those uses that we also desire.
All right. So we got a couple of people that are already asking questions. I do want
Absolutely.
to acknowledge, first off, say hello to Dana and Graham, Nicholas, Christina. Let's see here. We got a question here from Diego, and he's asking, are we going to get a Harbor Freight? I have not heard anything about Harbor Freight.
So Harbor Freight is definitely on the list. So it's definitely part of our attraction efforts. There is what we call sales leakage. And sales leakage is the opportunity for certain types of categories of I would say uses or places that we like to frequent, right? So it could be soft goods, it could be hard goods, it could be fast casual restaurants, it could be local dining, like drinking establishments. So there's one that has to do with tools. So we actually look at the sales leakage in each of those categories. So we don't just go off and randomly want to attract more car washes or gas stations, you guys. So what we'll do is we actually look at that sales leakage and we start to target specific types of end users for our centers to lower that sales leakage that is leaving our community to other communities so we can retain those sales tax dollars here locally to provide those services to our residents. So absolutely. It's very strategic and targeted.
Now, so one of the dynamics that I've explained to the public in the past, through social media efforts and whatnot is, we're kind of unique as a city, right? I mean, and every city is a little bit different, and they all
we're
all
the
have
best, but yeah,
they're I think so, but we all have different opportunities and constraints. I get a lot of people that are, talking about like, they want to compare us to Temecula, with they have Temecula's done a phenomenal job of growing with the wine country and the Balloon and Wine Festival and all these things. But they're fully built out now, right?
Yep.
So they've got a mall that they're working through a redevelopment type of effort, I think, to go ahead and utilize appropriately. They've redesignated some of their industrial corridor for redevelopment, and so they're going through all of that effort. And then you've got like Marietta, which Marietta doesn't have a lot of places to go, visit in terms of tourism,
Yep.
right? They're trying to develop a downtown corridor area, and they're kind of struggling a little bit to go ahead and kind of get that off the ground in the same way. I've had Marietta officials say, "Gosh, I wish we had a downtown like yours," but they don't. They also, unless you get sick and you need to go to the hospital, which they've got a lot of hospitals and it's good.
Medical, yeah.
There's not a lot of tourism basis to go to Marietta aside from maybe visiting Temecula, right? So they have that kind of overflow of
The runoff, yeah.
kind of like, yeah, right. So if all the hotels are booked in Temecula, or if you're willing to go ahead and go drive a little bit, you can go ahead and stay the night in Marietta, and that's kind of largely how they got their hotels. Wildemar's, incorporated specifically to stay rural, so there's, kind of an interesting dynamic where Clinton Keith seems to be their main corridor for development because that seems to be the path of travel for some of their highest earner incomes. So they've gotten a Barron's out of that, and they've been able to go ahead and bring a little bit of development down that corridor, but Bundy Canyon's probably the next thing for them, or down the line maybe,
Keith, yeah.
right? Canyon Lake's just a big neighborhood basically with a little strip mall, and they're not growing; they're fully maxed out. Menifee has grown exponentially. You played a part in that, right? Like, so you did a good job over there. But even with Menifee, they still don't have like a Costco or a Home Depot or a movie theater. They're trying to get a movie
Dealer.
theater.
I can keep going.
Auto dealer, right. There's a couple of things that they're missing over there that we've had for a long time, but people they don't remember those things, and they're like, oh my, we're being passed by, but we're not being passed by. We just have different needs, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the reality of things. So I try to remind people of that some of our best eateries, in my opinion, in the city, were started by locals, and that's something.
Most are.
I think so too.
Most are.
I mean, El Comal is a phenomenal restaurant. I love La Unica. I love Mishi Tacos. Palm Thai was a franchise that
I'm very familiar with
Oh
it.
yeah, right.
It's
okay.
amazing. I love their Thai. They have great curry.
I miss King Kebab because
Yep.
that was one of our few. They actually
We're working on
switched out.
Mediterranean.
Okay,
It's one of my favorite, Indian.
I'm half Greek, so that appeals to me. Yeah, definitely.
It's my favorite.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
And we are using and I just wanted to say thank you to a lot of the listeners in our community for the retail and restaurant survey that was just pushed out. We actually used that information. We had a great response for that, and we use that for justification for some of the uses and needs that our community is asking for.
Now I'm going to ask you, because there's a lot made of it. It's a running joke and a gag online. How many more car washes can we get?
So yeah, a lot of people don't realize that when we're talking about car washes, though, I just want to let you know that banks do not fund establishments like that unless there's a need for something like that. And while we are not going after car washes, gas stations, or fast food restaurants, we just don't.
No.
They come to us and they have rights. They actually have rights because if you deny certain ones, it's called spot zoning. It's illegal.
That's right.
However, but what we can do is encourage certain types of uses and uses that we would like to see. We like to, or I like to encourage when we're saying a larger retail center, and if it's a car wash or a gas station, I like to use those to offset off-site and on-site costs to make a larger plaza pencil out. The day of the standalones are gone. Right. And so that's really what people are attributing, going, well, how many more do we need? We do not need another, and I'm not going to say a brand, but more of those, right? So while they're useful to make projects pencil out, they're not the sole center or anchor of a certain plaza, right?
So you've received no direction to go out and recruit those car washes.
Absolutely
because
not.
Lord knows we have way too many dirty cars in the city.
And if that's the case, I'll pack my stuff.
It's not just right. I mean that'd be terrible. I mean, I mean, all joking aside,
no.
If we had Trader Joe's come forward, for instance, and they said, hey, listen, we want to bring a Trader Joe's, but in order to make all the offsites pencil out, in order for us to be able to afford to widen the road and put the sidewalks in, all the lights, all these things, we need a user that will pay a little bit more than the average bear, and that happens to be car washes right now.
On a land lease, correct?
Right, exactly.
Absolutely, and that's not abnormal at all.
No, not
and
at
in
all.
fact, I've had many people have seen what I've done in Menifee. But the Sprouts Center, that's exactly what happened when you had the Olive Garden and we had a drive-through. It's the same exact mechanism. Nobody wanted the drive-throughs, but we needed that in order to pencil out the off-sites and on-sites in order to achieve that specialty grocer and that sit-down restaurant.
Fair enough.
So,
Okay.
but the original plan for that center, just in perspective, was a car wash, gas station, and drive-through. And what we've done is we were able to push back, and that's the center that you got today. So, same type of analogy here to what you're talking about. I know the council has been great about that and communicating that, but that's why I talked about the private ownership issue, and as far as land goes, as far as spot zoning goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and when she talks about spot zoning, what that means is that if we're going to allow a grocery store, what we don't control is whether it's a Trader Joe's or if it's a food for less. Okay, like we don't get a choice on tenant selection in certain respects, and we can't just take away say car washes in this area but allow them in this area in the general plan. We could probably do that in our specific plan, but that's another story altogether.
Yeah.
And that gets a little complicated. Point is that we kind of let the market decide, and I'm a free market guy, so if they want to overbuild on car washes, I don't like that idea. I don't think they'll get there. I think when you get close to that oversaturation point, like the banks just won't.
And there's ways, just like what you guys did last night, right? Where you guys said, hey, let's study car washes. What is the market looking at? Are we at our capacity? What is the future growth? How many can we really, withstand? Is there a way to discourage certain things from a market standpoint? You're absolutely right.
Okay, I'm gonna have we have Maya Garcia, who's on our staff, and she doesn't want to be on camera, but she is willing to go ahead and read questions from. So I'm gonna hand it over to her. Maya, what's the next question?
So Abby from Instagram is wondering if a Wineco is going to be coming.
A Winco.
A Winco.
Winco. Yes. So Winco, I'm open to Winco. I mean, if they're interested, I guess.
Winco's a great sales tax generator. They're definitely a need for the community in the region. I do know that they are looking. It's going to come down to, it's very much like a puzzle piece. So what the requirement is on square footage, do we have that existing? And then if they are interested, then we would work with a developer to create a center based on them, because they would be considered an anchor tenant. But they're a great sales tax generator. They will generate about $1 million to the city, to the coffers, which a traditional grocery store is anywhere from about $30,000 to $40,000. So they're a great generator.
What's
and
their
they're a
footprint?
regional pole too.
What's their target footprint?
They're quite large.
They're quite large,
They're
huh?
very large.
It would have been a good spot for like maybe
Yes.
the old Walmart site would have been a good, but
Oh,
Walmart
originally, yeah.
Walmart would have never sold to them. They don't
No,
want the
they
competition.
have a non-compete clause, and actually they have a lot of constraints in their lease agreements, and so it'd have to be a use that when they sold, that they wouldn't have seen as a competitor, and then they would remove the restrictions, which they did
Which
do.
is exactly what happened,
Yep.
right? Inland Valley.
And they know what they're doing.
Yeah, motorsports. Oh, of course they do. They're not crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. But now that those restrictions are gone, talking about reuse at the city center, they're the folks that bought. The word is that the folks that bought the building, which is Inland Valley Motorsports, they're not going to use all of that space.
Correct.
So they're expecting to go ahead and try to demise and maybe use
Yeah.
a secondary portion of that for some other vendors. I would imagine that's correct.
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to this thing called International Convention of Shopping Centers this weekend, and we'll be talking to some of the representatives for various retailers. And the bottom line is we're going to be talking to folks and trying to connect them with the folks that have that site. Now, that said, we don't make those deals, right? I mean, we can only introduce them, and it's like introducing two people who eventually get married, right? I am like, man, we can't make the deal. We can't make the deal work. You know what I mean? Like, they got to work that part out, but we can certainly introduce them, right? I mean,
I could play,
matchmaker.
Cupid.
Yeah, that is Gina's job. She is Cupid for the city. Absolutely.
So it's a lot of fun. To your point, there's about 50,000 square feet that's remaining that we are completely engaged with the new owners there, and really communicating what the desires of our community are for that center, and to really reactivate that and create some vitality for the center and change some of the uses that are maybe existing there that could really reinvigorate our community, especially with all the money and investment that our city council has made on the interchange there. It's a great opportunity.
I agree with that, and we did really push really hard to go ahead and have all that line up and whatnot. It'd be a shame to see that go to waste, just for the highest bidder. So the city is impressing upon the new owner. We'd really like to see X, Y, and Z. We think it'd be really good for the center, and let me show you why. And
The traffic counts are there. There's some of the highest traffic counts, and I know for the community, they don't like traffic, but in my world, it's a very sexy word. As far as attraction
Yes.
goes to tenants, so it is a very desirable intersection for tenants.
Okay, Maya, do we have another question?
Yes. What new restaurants or date night entertainment places will LE be getting soon?
Well, we just talked about the French restaurant. What's not more?
Ooh la la.
Right? Oui, oui.
Oui, oui.
So you can look forward to that. That's a brand new one. But I would say this, that is one of the targets that are on our list, is that nighttime serving use that you just mentioned. Places to do, where you could go and it's more than just date night, but really has that evening vibe that people are staying beyond just 8 o'clock at night. But trying to give us something that's maybe even more upper scale is what you're referring to. So that is definitely on the list. I do have a couple people that are interested in Lake Elsinore, want to be here, that would exactly fit that mold. So I'm excited about that.
And then, just from the policy standpoint, you and I talked about this a little bit, but it's not official policy in any way, shape, or form yet. We're also talking about maybe some incentive packages for specific types of restaurants that might be highly desired, or maybe some other types of, high job creators, something that creates big tax dollars or whatnot. We're talking about that, but we got to be very careful about the way that we structure those incentives. I can tell you that, the water district's planning on increasing their connection fees,
Yes.
like not by a little bit, but by a lot. That's going to make it harder for new restaurants to open. So if we ever say wanted like a steakhouse, maybe we cover, a portion of or all of the connection fees in order to go ahead and make, the first 2 or 3 steakhouses, possible. I don't know. I mean, we're just kind of floating ideas to a certain extent, but these are the discussions that we're having, and obviously they become more robust when we
And
have
sometimes you
really
can't
smart people like Gina to go ahead and kind of deal with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and sometimes even that doesn't work depending if offsites are already completed, right? Because there's laws that prevent certain types of incentives. So it does come even down to the specific location that they're considering and Also, trying to encourage the existing landlords to maybe increase their tenant allowance as well to make something like that pencil out. But what's great about working with our city manager, Jason, and coming from a finance background, he understands the need for infrastructure and ways to be creative on trying to encourage that. And that in itself is a great incentive for a lot of the uses that we're talking about today.
Very interesting. Maya, do we have another question?
Someone's inquiring about an Applebee's. Well,
Applebee's. Okay, we can put Applebee's on the list. What do you think?
They were actually one of the ones that was suggested on our retail and restaurant survey. So you can absolutely consider them on the list. And they haven't historically wanted to expand. They did have some issues with the state of California's wage laws and work comp issues. But that doesn't mean that they're not looking to expand. It just really will depend a lot of times on the deal that is before them. So they're definitely on the list, and you can absolutely count on us outreaching.
Tell them to put a bread oven in and bake it on site, and then they don't have to worry about it. I'm sorry, that's political. She can't comment on that. All right, sorry. Next question. Maya, go ahead.
are any new hotels coming to Lake Elsinore?
So that is actually something that I'm working on, is the hotel attraction. So we did briefly cover about all of the regional attractions in the city. And so coupled with the existing business count that we have in the city and with the future growth with industrial, it's extremely attractive to go after hotels for Lake Elsinore. In fact, I was kind of baffled. I've already connected with more than a few that are extremely interested in Lake Elsinore and doing something very unique here. So
the interesting thing was, so we've had two hotels get very close, new hotels get very close to construction in the recent history. One was killed off by COVID. The other one, when they shut down the businesses, and they were like 2 weeks away from closing on the land, and unfortunately that didn't work out. And that was actually a pretty, I liked the product that was coming here. They may be still interested today. I don't know.
We do have some land constraints. I think it's important for the community to know that we do have land constraints. So just because you see a beautiful piece of land, but that should be a hotel. I just know it in my heart. That very well could be a great piece of land. However, sometimes we have cultural, we have biological issues. We might have certain zoning issues that maybe it doesn't necessarily fit, or hydrology. I mean, there are a slew of things that can prevent somebody from moving forward. So it's finding literally the puzzle piece. It's the right puzzle piece for them in order to see that project all the way through to your point. And so we do have some key properties that we are pushing for that type of development and trying to see them through the entire process. But Lake Elsinore is extremely unique in that we are willing to assist them from A to Z here. And so there is no problem big enough for us to handle. We were very solutions oriented here. And so it's a great place to really build a business, to expand a business, and to develop. So it's really encouraging to have this active of a city council and city manager. This is a dream for an economic development person, just so you know.
I didn't know that.
I'm super in love.
Okay, this is good. This is good. I'm glad to hear this. And we get developers who get stuck from time to time, and they please help, and we get involved a little bit. I mean, from my standpoint, I try to be fair and referee who's involved. And I got to tell you, folks, honest to God, this is, because my job is to represent the people and even the developers that come to the area to a certain, and to convey that voice. When I ask about holdups in processing and application, 999 times out of 1,000, there is a delay on the developer side. Like our staff has been really, really good. The planning department's been really, really good about being able to respond. There was some slowness when we had a lot of the cannabis applications, because there were extra steps that were being made at that particular time that kind of gummed up the process. But but after that, it was very, very clean, in my opinion. And the developers are going to go ahead and sometimes say the other way. But what I'm often seeing is that their professionals that they've hired or use the city or the slowness of government to justify their own slowness, and that's what's translating through. And sometimes that even leaks out to the public. So
well, that's what's great about our department, is that we're a business ombudsman. So we work with the development community that when they do have those hiccups, like you just mentioned, 9 times out of 10, it's sometimes a misunderstanding and getting everybody in one room. And what's great, you talked about the planning department. I just want to give a shout out to Damaris. Damaris is our community development director. Top-notch community development director. So exciting to work with her. But we literally, if there's an issue, we troubleshoot together on trying to come up with solutions. And actually, it ends up being just a misunderstanding and just trying to all get on the same page.
I get that. I
Yep.
agree. And it is all just a big group effort. All right, Maya, what do we got now?
A lot of people are commenting about the outlet mall.
The outlets.
The
The outlets. Oh, where are the outlets? Oh, yes, the outlets off of Collier. Yes. I think I'll give you the history, okay? And we got on council. There was an ownership change, and the city partnered with the outlets on a new vision. And they came to the council. They said, hey, listen, we want to knock down a couple of buildings. We want to go ahead and dress the place up with water and fire features, but we need all these billboards on the freeway. And there's also this median that just is, horrible. And so, we all came together and the city fixed the median. We went ahead and made changes to the interchange, that 3-way stop, which is still not great, but, we'll get to that eventually. And we improved the Nichols Road off-ramp with stop signs, an extra stop sign in one place. And, that's all that's justified for now. And we gave them the billboards. And not only do they have now the electronic billboards, they have all these billboards on the freeway. And then 10 years later, they're all like, well, it's not working out, sort of thing. And so, I don't know what to say for the outlets except for they do a really good job of putting businesses out of business. I don't mean to be mean, but it seems like a lot of places are leaving there. And so I don't know what to do about that. I mean, I really don't. We've really tried over the years to help them out, but it seems like COVID kind of, stopped some progress on a luxury theater they were working on, and there was some retailers that were going to come on board at one time, and then they had a hotel that was lined up to go. That was where the hotel was going to line up to go ahead and close escrow, and then COVID came along, shut down all the businesses, and then since then it seems that the ownership doesn't have the capacity to go ahead and bring in the retailers to revitalize the center. They've lost places like Nike, and the hits keep
Large
coming.
brands, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just had craft brewery shut down, and I'm in the space. I think I know why they're having some of the problems that they're having, and I've told them directly why they're having the problems. But their idea is to go ahead and change the use to residential or industrial use, to which the city is just like, you're just trying to maximize the usage and sell off for the highest dollar. They don't. That's not what they do. They don't redevelop shopping centers into residential. So they're looking for a way to recoup their investment. They're probably making less rent today than they were before.
Absolutely, they are.
So they're going to lose money. It sounds like
They still are. They're losing it now. But I'm a little bit more Pollyanna.
Okay.
So I see this as an opportunity, and that's my job, is to see it as a Pollyanna, right? And so I don't have the history that you guys, that the city historically has gone through, and it's a very real issue. I'm not going to discount that in any regard at all, because it could absolutely stall it for many, many years, as you know. But my job is to keep looking under rocks, so to speak. And so I've already started doing that. And there's some really piqued interest in that. But again, it's going to come down to, as you mentioned, it hit the nose right on the nose, is that if they're engaged in wanting to sell, right? If they're willing to relinquish it, knowing that they're going to have to take a loss in order for something or someone to come in and either revitalize it, knock it down, build exactly what we are envisioning for a true outlet from a design standpoint,
Right.
or how to really create some vitality there where there's mixed use product, but yet the shopping is there, right? So that way you have that that feeder for the outlets to be successful.
Right.
And so we do have some true interest in that. And so we just need to see it through. And then again, it's going to come down to, are they willing to play ball?
Right.
No pun intended.
I think, yeah. Well, I would say that the people that are most interested in that center seem to be residents that want to put a business there to go ahead and save it, But the conditions are far beyond.
And those are what we call second gen
Right.
uses, and that's not really the use for an outlet to be successful,
I agree.
right? It is if you're trying to create more of a placemaking opportunity where it's more community oriented, but that isn't a regional attraction, and there isn't enough rooftops for something like that to even be viable, right?
Yeah.
So there would have to be a lot more than that, and that's where the industrial is really going out there, that diverse use. The hotel could be a good feeder for the industrial, but for what was envisioned for the outlets, it really does need to be those brands that we're talking about, and it has to be somebody that has those relationships and has the success track record of making that happen.
And then you got Terracina that's going in behind, even the stuff that's attempting to go through the entitlement process right now, which is mostly industrial product. That could actually help just in bringing jobs, and then
Absolutely.
creating like a lunch rush, so that helps like some of the
daytime
restaurants there,
population.
right? And then there's houses across the freeway that are being built out by Meritage, so you have some housing growth that's happening along that corridor that could actually increase the amount of traffic that's coming down there, which creates a completely different problem. We'll have a different segment that talks about traffic, okay, before everybody starts asking that question. But the bottom line is that all of those things could be positives for the outlets. I think for the right ownership that has the right team, that has the right relationships, because relationships are everything in the retail world, in order to go ahead and create the synergy that they need to go ahead and revitalize. It'll all happen at like one time, not in little pieces.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. I'm really encouraged by the discussions that we're having early on, only being here for 2 months, and that's one of, when I said multi-pronged effort here, we're not just concentrating on one thing and then eventually getting to it. We're literally running around on multiple efforts to really create that momentum for our city.
Okay.
So I say just be patient. I promise you we're going to have some updates with that. We're not going to let that go. It's definitely on the list. But like I said, I'm being a little bit more Pollyanna.
Fair. Does it sound like I've been in the trenches on this one for a while, and I'm just like, man, dude, that is a tough nut to crack. But no, that's perfect. That's the reason why new faces and fresh blood are
But
important.
to have you and Natasha on my economic development team and having seasoned professionals like yourself, super exciting to have you guys on my left arm and my right arm hitting the ground.
I'll speak for Natasha. I think she gets it.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So it's I have a lot of respect for her, and she's got experience in the banking world, and certainly does a really good job of creating relationships with people and whatnot. And I think maybe I'm bummed because there's been promises made that weren't
Oh, yeah.
followed through with, and so when you get extra, when you do the extra, when you're getting involved this way, I don't think most mayors get involved the way that we get. Most council members don't do what we
No.
do. You're personally invested, so it is a bummer.
We can keep bringing people to the owners that are interested in trying to really acquire it and do something great for our community. But again, it's going to come down to an engaged owner of to letting go.
Right.
And so we can
Right.
help paint that picture. But again, it's we can spoon feed it, but it's really getting them to eat that.
Yep, agreed.
So we'll keep on it.
Maya, what's the next?
Z is asking, what is being built on the corner of Main and Summer?
What is being of Maine in summer?
Oh, that's the
Sumner?
land. That's the
library.
Yeah.
That's the library. Brand new library, state of the art. We're going from worst to first as far as libraries go. The county, I don't know if it's countywide or if it's statewide or if it's nationwide, but I heard the current library that we have right now is not so great.
Countywide. Yeah.
It's countywide. Okay. Well, feels like I can tell you that when I was taking my kids to the library, I was taking them to the Wildemar Library. So I mean, not to be dismissive, but we're gonna have a really cool library that's gonna be up to date and modern, and it's gonna have some great elements to it. There's a couple of we do have a couple of ideas floating around in terms of renderings, but it's not ready for prime time yet. Obviously, you got the county that's involved and the state that's involved. So we're not releasing anything until there's a final set of plans in place. But basically, we're doing the groundwork right now. We're going to be laying the footprint for it, and that's what's coming.
Super exciting about the investment that's being made, and the city staff has been very active on really trying to revitalize and add value to our main street and our downtown. And really, we want to see our downtown thrive. And so it's a multi-pronged effort. Again, when we talk about the library, we're talking about the resurfacing, all of the improvements, the city hall. So in working with a lot of our ownership here to add more value to our downtown. So
All right.
kudos to the council.
Oh wow.
And to staff.
No, it's staff. It was that was a staff initiative all the way. I mean, there was none of us going, "Can we get a library?" No, that was staff. They did a great job of taking advantage of an opportunity as it presented itself, and when you see all of the quality infrastructure or the facilities that you're seeing, there's stuff that we don't even talk about, like Public Works building. Our emergency operations center. These are first class buildings. Wait till you see the city hall. That's going to be amazing. That's going to change our world. I think folks just don't understand what that means to a community, but the library should definitely go ahead and move the needle in the right direction, especially for our
And that's what
downtown.
you want to see in downtown. You want those opportunities for like bookstores and libraries and markets, and it's a reason for people to come down and they shop more than just for one thing. So,
Agreed.
or to do more than one thing with their families as well.
All right, Maya, we're going to do maybe one or two more questions.
Okay, so Staples moved out. What's going in that building now?
That's the gas.
That's the gas station. That's Costco, right?
It's Costco.
Yeah, Costco bought the building. They're going to expand their gas station. Yeah.
Costco jumped on it before we were able to even touch it.
Yeah. It's true, actually. So
Yeah.
more gas stations.
But it's
All right.
Costco. But it's Costco.
Just gonna. It's what everybody wants, right? So yeah, no, it's an expansion of their current use. What else?
A lot of people asked, will there ever be a community college in Lake Elsinore?
Ooh, that's a great question. Go
We're
ahead.
actually in discussions right now with MSJC. So just stay tuned. Just know that when I talked about our SEDS and we talked about education, four-year education, we are actively engaged with Natasha Johnson, our councilwoman, does sit on our the Education Coalition for Southwest Riverside County with myself, and we are going after four-year educational attainment and trying to also help San Marcos expand. But in addition, we're looking at other opportunities for four-year education here. But as far as community college goes, we are in discussions with the community college on an expansion footprint here.
Which I'm hearing many of the cities in the area are all clamoring for. So
Well, there's only a few that actually have land.
exactly.
So again,
We're dirt rich. All right.
I'm trying to knock
what
off
else,
my shoes.
What else, Maya?
How about a bike trail around the lake?
This is a little outside of economic development, but we are working on a master plan for a trail network, something that connects out with the Marietta Creek Trail. We also have, of course, our general plan that's being done right now, and part of that includes a trail overlay. We'll have more information about that in the future, but yeah, we are looking at something that makes kind of a comprehensive trail plan that goes all the way through to Corona and all the way through east to maybe like Canyon Lake or Menifee. I know there's some trails out there that connect up, which are pretty cool. So that's working. What else?
What is being built on the corner of Corydon and Mission Trail?
Corydon and Mission Trail. Oh, that's. Go ahead. Yeah. You know? Oh, do you know?
they do now.
Okay. Well, it's not an entirely happy story. But you did have the car wash that went in, and then you had some industrial buildings that were built, and then there was also supposed to be a drive-through, but unfortunately, apparently, the developers weren't making their payments, and it went through foreclosure recently. All construction's halted, all the contractors are off-site, and we don't know what's going to happen next, if I'm not mistaken, unless you have more information than I do.
No, and it's a private property matter too, so we have to be very sensitive on what we do share and what we do say. You can say it, I can't. But I will just say this, that this isn't all unfamiliar for myself, where we've had to work with banks before on an end user, or if they could somehow end up paying penalties and getting that back. But using other developers to come in and clean it up is not something that I'm foreign to.
You know, and that actually brings up an interesting point. There's a lot of, and maybe we don't have enough time to really cover it, but the banks are getting pressured right now.
Absolutely.
Especially in the commercial sector.
Absolutely.
There seems to be, to me, a bit of a similar type of situation. It's not for the same reasons, but it seems like there seems to be somewhat of a bubble that's building in the commercial banking sector as it relates to intraday rates,
Interest rates, correct.
the way the rates increased quickly,
Yep.
So their
It's making them a
leverage.
little bit more skittish and releasing or giving loans out. In addition, developers too, if they would wait a year or two, some of them are looking at, well, I could save $1 million or $2 million by just waiting a little bit from the market to kind of shift in that regard. But then now, just most recently on the national level, you're looking at tariffs now that will affect building supplies. So that's another caveat where it's going to increase costs, which is then going to increase loans, which increases the interest rates. So overall, it's kind of a bit unknown as far as where the economy is going to go. So it is all being watched, to your point, right now. But banks are making it a little bit more difficult to get projects up and going.
My crystal ball is still in the shop. I've been predicting a downturn for years, and boy, I've been wrong.
Well, banks, believe it or not, I'll just end with this.
Yeah.
Banks do actually have a lot of control on what comes. Just because we want something or somebody owns a piece of land, the banks can actually nod yes or no to it, and they actually have more control than most people think on projects.
Interesting.
So
All right, I'm going to shift real quick, and this is kind of fun because I got a letter from Ariel, and it's a handwritten letter. It's the first one I've got out of the mailbag that kind of requests a certain thing, and then this seemed to be the quickest way because I don't have a phone number or an email to respond to. So instead of sending it back snail mail, which I'll probably write a letter here, but Ariel writes, "Hello, Mayor Steve Manos. I'm 11 years old. I live in Lake Elsinore in the community of Summerlee. While I am driving to the red light," Ariel, you shouldn't be driving at age 11, "and it is right near the signs of brick that say Summerlee, there is a 4-way street crossing. This crossing has no stop signs, so it can be fast. The cars go fast, and some don't stop until there are no cars left. It often takes a long time to move in the direction we have to go to. I ask that you consider putting a stop sign on this street. Thank you for reading my letter. I hope you will consider putting a stop sign in this spot. Sincerely, Ariel." And I'll leave out the last name. First off, very well written. Second off, we will pass this along to our traffic engineer who will analyze the street. And for the public's knowledge, whenever we talk about street signs, our engineers have to go ahead and refer back to something called the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Devices. And, you know, back in the day, you could put a stop sign around a curve, you know, at 60 miles per hour, and there's a stop sign all of a sudden, and the locals would know that there was a stop sign there, so they would slow down and stop, but visitors would like just fly through the stop sign, and of course there'd be a nice little police officer there writing tickets all day long, right? Okay, so once upon a time, the state of California decided we're going to go ahead and make some uniform rules. They're going to go ahead and prevent things like that from happening. And then, of course, a really good and well-intended thing's grown into a huge monster. So here's the thing. I believe you. I am in favor of acknowledging these types of things and helping the residents out where we can. But there are rules applied specifically to these types of situations. So we hand it over to a traffic engineer who analyzes all these things, creates the justification, and if a stop sign is warranted, we will put a stop sign there. So that is the answer to that. Thank you, Ariel, again for writing the letter. And if anybody else wants to write letters, you're welcome to do that. You can write it to my email address, smanos@lake-elsinore.org, or you can send me a paper note, which I thought was a great prompt.
look at the way that she set it up.
Dude.
Kudos.
Man,
that
I'm
is a
telling
future
you.
intern right there. Wink, wink.
That's why I brought it online. I thought I'd go ahead and highlight. 11 years old and driving, though. That's impressive. I haven't seen that since the 70s, quite frankly.
Definitely great workforce.
Right, definitely. She could have popped a beer. No, just kidding. No, can't do that. Okay, sorry.
Root beer.
Root beer. Yeah, the kids were tougher back then. Okay, folks. With that, I want to thank you all for joining us for the past hour. I hope we answered a lot of your questions. Next month, roughly about the same time and date, we will have our next live stream, and then look out for the next week. We'll drop the podcast. Next 2 weeks, we'll drop the podcast. That podcast has our fire chief, Lonnie Olson, Division Fire Chief Lonnie Olson, and then of course our Lieutenant David Clark. Thank you, Lieutenant David Clark with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. We had a spirited discussion with them, as well as Giovanni Huerta, where we discussed many things and took some misconceptions and clarified them. So join us for that. And if you have any other questions, you're welcome to go ahead and post them on our Facebook page. We'll try to include them in the next live stream. Gina, thank you for joining us.
Extremely excited, and it was my pleasure.
You were very knowledgeable. We're happy to have you aboard again, and we're happy to have had you join us. So until next time, thank you.